Mike?
Here, Roger.
Yep, here.
You got these mics on, right? Your mic on, Mike?
So do we
Yeah,
have approval of minutes
Yeah.
from the economic development from 2/19/25?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have an approval of tonight's agenda?
I will also make that motion.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to new business.
Yes, EDA Commission. So the first item in front of you tonight is just the consensus to list property we routinely refer to as the East Shop site or 3815 Bridge Street. It is next to the river. It is a small parcel you'll see on the map inside. It is kind of deceiving what you see when you're parked on Bridge Street versus what is actually going to be for sale. It is roughly 1.7 acres. It is commercial. It is required to follow our design guidelines as such, and it is in the B1 zoning district, so our downtown zoning district. It is not attached to the river. There is an easement between the property line and the yellow, which is the actual property line of what would be sold. That is drainage and utility and some river requirements. This property does hold all of the river requirements for the urban district, so it has requirements on sight from the river, from height, a lot of the tough pieces that we're working with, even with the Rum River Inn and those sites over there. So with that, it would just be, it has been on the market in the past. We started listing this one for sale back in 2018. We had it on the market. We listed it through economic development websites. We've listed it commercially. It has not formally been on the market for a couple of years, so this would be a good time to test those waters again as things are moving around here. So this is just getting that consensus and knowing that we'll get this back on the market and see if we can get any bites. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Brenda?
Kate, did you mention someplace, I thought I read it and I couldn't have made it up, but are you gonna post this with the Anoka County Economic Development?
It has been posted
Okay.
for, geez, when did we start that? 2019?
All that time it has been? Oh, I'm sorry, I
So-
didn't realize.
Yeah, these properties have been live. I think is sending it out, just to test the water. Like I said, there's a lot of activity at the Rum River Inn. There's some issues that are not allowing any of those interested parties to move forward. So it could be that we may pick up one of those interested parties on this site. We'll see if, right, it's tough because people that are looking for a building aren't necessarily always looking for land because that building is such an expensive capital cost for any business. So having that, it is a little bit different, but it's had enough interest that and different creative ideas that maybe we could find some. But it has been for sale and just it's not moving. We'll see.
All right. Anything? Joe?
there was a period of time too where this thing was on sale for $1, which is one of the reasons where you get those questions about like the Subway property behind Subway there, the Ramaker property. Why it was what it was when we put it up initially. Just a little background on that, where it's hard to move things. I have no issue with it being the price it is. I guess it's one of those things where, sometimes you put free and nobody wants it. You put $5 and somebody steals it type of thing. So why not see what you can get for it and go from there? That's all I have.
Amy?
Well, because going along with what Joe said, it says the property will be listed at market value. Do we know what that is?
It's roughly 200,000.
Oh, okay.
200?
Well, market value is what anybody will pay for.
Yeah, I know. It
You know,
varies,
I
but
mean, I know there was a survey on that lot, correct?
Correct. We have done both a formal survey to clean up the lot lines because we actually received that property from Anoka County. So we did a lot of work to get those lot lines cleaned up, the title work cleaned up, and we've completed, I believe, an Alta survey to make sure we know where all the utilities and stray pieces are. We've even completed the phase one, really hopeful that we would have gotten this sold, like I said, 7 years ago. They found some old cans from a flour mill or cornstarch cans, but that was as exciting as that lot got. So we're pretty shovel ready on this one. But it's still, I just think it now is a good time for a boost, and that way if they have the winter to do all the site plan process, and we'll see if we can.
Anything else, Amy?
Mm-mm.
So, did we purchase this lot from Anoka County?
I don't believe we purchased it. I think we
Acquired it, yeah.
I
So,
think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I remember also, is we acquired that land, so we have some room to negotiate, and anytime we own any land like that, it's always tough to move it. Always, what is the zoning B1?
So B1 is our downtown district. It is our more restrictive commercial, so it is commercial. The other challenge with this lot, we have worked with a couple other individuals that were interested in developing here, and being that it is so close to the bridge, Anoka County has great concerns about turn lanes and accessibility.
They wanted them to share with Casey, didn't they?
Correct. So it really has some challenges when it comes to access. We've done some preliminary kind of renderings to try to give ideas of public partnerships, public-private partnerships. So we've done a lot to try to get it out there. We'll see.
So is it possible that it could be rezoned to put multiple housing in there?
Commissioners would not recommend that. One, we are zoning out a lot of our commercial property already. We're going to be behind in our comp plan numbers. And it would be more of a spot zone because it's going to be surrounded by other commercial property. So it's not a good fit. If somebody wanted to come forward with a multi-use building, like commercial on the first floor and housing 2 and above, that is allowed in that zoning district, but not solely housing.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, and being so close to the bridge, like you said, with the traffic.
So we talk about being close to the bridge, and we know that Anoka County has plans for Bridge Street, Ambassador. Have we heard anything more about that?
They declined the ambassador one because they said they didn't need it now, right?
Yeah, commissioners, so
Of course, we get a bunch of townhomes in there, that might change.
Anoka County has, based on today's traffic, they do not see any need for intersection changes. We are working with both the developer and with the concept of the Bridge Street extension to getting a traffic study looked at for this intersection. So I think that will be pretty telling, but we can't do that study until the kids are back in school. So we have that rush 2 times a day. If that's enough to tip the scales, we'll see. But as of right now, Anoka County has no plans to change this intersection. And this is far enough away that they're going to look at the intersection and access directly in front of it, not down here off of Ambassador.
So that's all I have. So do we have a motion to accept the real property listing? Is that how I want to word that?
Sure, that'll work. Or provide staff with direction to formally list it.
Perfect. Do we have a motion?
Also move. I'll second.
All in favor?
I
Second? Yep,
Yep.
motion carries. All right, you got me thinking now. Brenda.
Sorry.
All right, let's go to new business part B.
Yes. Commissioners, so the second item in front of you tonight is a purchase agreement amendment. This is with North Shore. Matt had intended to be here, but got called out and could not. So with that, what this is currently the purchase agreement we have with them goes to the end of the year. with some work towards looking at the development being townhouses, we want to move the due diligence period to April 1st of 2026. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Joseph?
So this basically just locks up the property until April. Because they have like first choice. They're, you know what I'm saying?
Yep, so
You'll explain it much better
commissioners,
than I just
yes,
did.
correct. So we are under a formal purchase agreement with them. This would extend it those extra 3 months to do the due diligence of the land use steps. As we anticipate either a concept or a preliminary to come in this fall.
How, I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's kind of arbitrary. I don't know if you can really answer that, but how likely do you think the developer is to pursue the townhomes?
Commissioners, I think very likely. We've seen some preliminary space drafts, if that makes sense, where they're kind of overlying what's buildable on top of the zoning districts with the setbacks to see what they can get in for town.
Currently, it would be 38 units that were,
Roughly 38, correct.
that's all I have for now.
Amy?
I don't have any questions.
All right,
No questions.
Brenda? I don't have any questions either. So, do we have a motion to amend the purchase agreement?
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Members report.
Huh?
Well, we'll start with you, Mara. You got anything for us?
No, not.
Okay. Brenda?
No.
Joseph?
Nothing.
Amy?
Oh, well, I'm just wondering where this article came from. That got.
Somebody emailed it, I think.
That article came from me that I sent to Kate.
Oh, okay.
It's very interesting. I'll just elaborate on it a little bit.
That'd be great.
So I spent like 35 years in the trades. And I was the guy that was opposed to TIF money. And I worked for one of the largest developers in the country. And one day I happened to sit down with one of the owners and we talked about it. And he changed my mind. And what I'm getting at is that we need to educate. We have to have some education. So TIF is not Section 8 housing. TIF was the Viking Stadium. TIF was the Saint Stadium. TIF was the Twin Stadium. These developers can't do that without the community's help, and that's part of this is before we had the land sale over here, my brother works for Big D, which puts in a lot of multi-unit housing. And they had a lot on their books. Today they don't. And I'm not quite sure why, but as of right now, Asani's got another development going in. And it was kind of unique reading that article because Asani pushed the envelope and made the developer do something with the road there. It's part of the tools that we have as the commission to help the town thrive. We put a lot of work into this to have it shut down, and we did that with the blessing of the council, and of course that changed. We have to be able to work hand in hand, and I think that we need to educate everybody, not just the council and the new EDA, but the city in itself. Because market rate housing is not the same as Section 8 housing. It's totally different. And we can get into that at a different time, but I don't know how we can go about that education. Like I says, there's tons and tons of information on what an economic development authority can do, and there's tons of grants out there. But that's where this came. I'd like you guys all to read that, and you can email me, message me, whatever, and just give me your response on it. I thought it was pretty interesting because I worked for one of them developers.
Can we do that, or is there an open meeting? Do we all
If you
email
send
them?
it to me, I can forward it.
Okay. Just checking.
Perfect. Well, you know how to get a hold of me.
Right.
Anything else, Amy?
Nope, I just was wondering about this.
All right, so that was part of my report. Like it says, I hope we can all get back on the same page, and we really need the EDA to help develop the town. I mean, it's just a tool that's there. It's a positive thing and not a negative thing. But that's all I got.
Mr. President, I have a question. Do you have any ideas of how to educate? Because I agree, people don't understand how the TIFs work. And I called a couple people and said, okay, tell me, what is going on? And one of them was the city of Blaine. And so they were explaining to me how they were doing it. And I thought, that is really good. And most people have no idea. I had this much idea, but I mean, it was amazing. And you're right, we do have to educate. I don't have any ideas how to do that, or even who the target population is to educate.
I think the target population would be the entire population of the city. The problem I think we run into, which, I mean, we can do things which we have done, I think, in the past, whether you're doing farmers market stuff or night to unite stuff, things like that. But I think the biggest, I mean, you can lead a horse to water, right? And that's where it comes down to, is a lot of people, unfortunately, especially when it's an emotional topic like that apartment building was for the people that live around it, they do not care or want to know anything. They just don't want it. They have, some of them don't, I mean, they don't care if there's any benefit. They don't care. They just do not want that apartment there for reasons that sometimes are fear-based, on what could happen, right? Or what might happen. And we were looking at like a pumpkin patch type thing up in the rural area at one point in time. Everybody from there came over, and there's gonna be toilet paper flying in my yard, and there's gonna be, I mean, if you name it, it's these fears. And some are, and I mean, even when we rebuilt the road on Riverbank, the fears of that. I
Cool.
mean, we were gonna flood out the people on the bottom of the hill because apparently our engineers are worthless, like it's fear-based and it's emotional based. And I think the hardest part is getting people to want to know and want to care. It's hard. And I think, Amy's probably learned a little bit now too, since being on the council, that there's that extra time that you put in, right? And some of us are willing to do that and some of us aren't. And you think, oh, I don't have time for this, but you make time for things that you really want to and things that you care about. And that's the thing, is it's just people, though I didn't care for many years until I got that water bill. That made me care. And then I didn't like the way that the council talked to me at the time. So we set out to try to change that, so I think there's things too that can trigger certain emotions that help to be constructive, but until those emotions are hit, I don't know how many people are going to want to take that extra time to learn it. I used to just pay my bills, go to work, and that's all I cared. My bills are paid, whatever. I just want to live my life and, leave me alone type of thing. So getting people to want to care, I think, is the hardest part. And if they're directly affected, like that apartment building, I don't know if you reach people, especially it's just high emotions, and emotions never, I don't know, when decisions are made on emotional basis, they're usually not great. Not saying that the apartment building, is right or wrong. It depends on each individual, but a lot of people aren't willing to give it that time to consider those things. So you do your best to get the information out there and see what sticks.
What you commented on earlier before we started the meeting is that it was market rate housing where they have to apply and they go through background checks where.
Like for apartments, you have background checks.
Right,
for
where
rentals
where
and
that
stuff.
there, where they're buying that townhouse, there is no background
Right.
check on that, you know, we had the crime issue that's out there, and I loved it in your council report when you dug that up. It isn't really there, you know, I mean, and when you put them in market rate housing like that, they go through the background check. I do know for a fact that we lost one of our cashiers over at County Market because there's nothing available here. So she had to. quit her
Affordable
job.
housing, yeah.
Right, you know, I mean, she was living with her son and daughter. She actually lived in the apartments, off of Arrowhead there, the little townhouses, until the new owners came in. And they raised the rent, so she was living with her son and his girlfriend, and they bought a house and they moved further north. And she just says, I can't do it,
Yeah.
you know, and so we're kind of running our own people out of town. And I think that's kind of terrible myself.
I would like to add what Joe said about, so I think that, right, socioeconomics plays a big component too, and demographics. And when people are uneducated, they're just uneducated. Could we use, and again, it's probably the same people who will go to city council meetings, who will read our available to us through St. Francis, through our new newsletter that comes out, which is different than our regular newsletter. I'm talking about, I can't remember the name.
Talking about the one that Michelle started?
Yeah, yes.
Oh,
the Michelle-
hometown something.
Hometown, whatever,
Something.
yes.
Yeah.
So just putting blurbs in those few places just every month, people get sick of reading it, but eventually they might be like, well, what is this? And they may or may not understand, but for some, I mean, you can educate some people, obviously not all of them, like you said, people don't care, they don't wanna know.
You know, it's funny how you say that, and the senior whatever up here that had TIF money in it.
Well, no, it was abatement, which is a little different. It's
Well-
similar but different.
Yeah, right, but that isn't what they conceive, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Well, the general public, when they hear anything, and I got somebody jumped down my throat with it too, when I mentioned that we were talking about the apartment. Because they didn't want the apartment, they said, well, it's gonna be section 8, and I said, where'd you get that information? And I said, affordable, I said, be ready, because affordable, when people hear affordable, they automatically think that.
Right.
And I mean, I was raised in section 8 housing too, so I mean, granted, I wasn't the greatest kid, I'll give you that. So some of the theories.
Let's say you're indifferent.
You know, but I think it's the whole thing too. It's people have to take the time to learn about everything. And I said, be ready, because when people hear the word affordable, they jump to that. And and I mean, I don't know if you watch the city council meetings too, it's just a group of people that they will, when you don't want something, you're going, and I've done it myself. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I don't want this. I don't like this idea, and I'm going to take anything I can find to throw at it that's negative, because that's going to influence the people to not go for it. So if you're really that passionate about not wanting something, you're going to twist everything. And I mean, it gets crazy, but
So
I've done it before too in my past too.
So how is Isani doing it in Cambridge? I mean, do we reach out to them and say, well, you know, what was the feedback from your citizens? You know, how do we hurdle that next step?
Well, Isani is really unique too, I think, because they have like the township and the city, and I don't know how it's similar to us, but it's different. Like, we don't have St. Francis Township and St. Francis City. Whereas, I mean, we kind of do, but we don't, right? It's still all the city. Where they actually have 2 jurisdictions, I think, over there too, don't they? Last I
Commissioners, I
checked.
believe they'd have to have 2 boards though.
Right,
And it's so, and you'll find with all of these projects, I mean, I can dig back 20 years. The planning commission notes are the same on every project, whether it's 6 lots or whether it's 120 units. So it's
Traffic
not
crime.
necessarily that Isani is doing anything different. It literally just comes back to council approving it or not. The projects are the same, the complaints and the concerns and the fears are the same. It literally falls back to the 5 or 7 that are sitting at council that really approved that last motion. So
It's, after the last council meeting that I attended, there was a gentleman that was here, that was outside, and he says, what was that apartment building? He says, we don't want section 8 here. I says, well, again, who told you it was section 8? And I don't know how we get past that, the rumor part of it and, address that fear of it, because honestly, it would have been nice to have that apartment building there. I actually talked to Kevin that used to own the church building, years down after we bought it, I have met the guy and, he still has apartments in Section 8 housing, and he says it isn't anything what people think. It's far from it. You know,
Yeah, I mean.
he
the
has to go through
demographic is
annual
so different.
inspections. He has to do annual repairs, any code changes, he has to do all that, and that's all out there. And like he said, we control who goes in there. They
Well,
got a felony, or if they're convicted of heinous crimes, and I think we know what I'm talking about. But then he doesn't rent to them.
No, legally you can't, I think too. But there's a lot of stuff too. I mean, there's elderly people on fixed income that are fully capable of taking care of themselves, but they can't necessarily afford the market rent. They go to Section 8 because of whatever their income might be. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff.
Well,
And there's single parents and stuff too, but what do you, I mean,
yeah, well, one of the things
what do you
that
expect?
I learned through the whole thing is that if we were to have, you know, I'm getting up there in age, if I go into assisted senior living and the state Medicare, whatever, gets involved and starts picking up part of my fee, that building had to have TIF money involved in it in order for them to pay. It, so yeah, it's something that we need to open up and, have an open dialogue with the citizens in town. Sure.
My view of it from, you know, I know I'm kind of stepping in near the end, because I could tell there was a lot of time spent on the North Shore project. My view of it was the citizens that came to speak, they never got to the TIF money question. We're talking about making sure we educate people on TIF and other things, you know, things that they're fearful of, or, you know, the emotions of it. For me, I felt that the three council people, myself included, voted down the project for three very different reasons. Now, this is just my view. I believe that the mayor voted it down for TIF. That was the reason. I never even got to TIF money in my equation of thought on a decision for this. I never even got there. The reason I voted no was two things. I didn't agree with us selling the property to a developer that's gonna make money off of the deal for $5,000. I think it should be sold something closer to market rate. That was why I voted no here at the EDA meeting. And that was the only reason that I voted no here at the EDA meeting. And at the council meeting, I voted no for that reason and for the traffic. We haven't figured out what's going on here with our traffic, and we've had a number of accidents here in town, and bad accidents, not necessarily right here on this corner, but everything funnels out onto 47. You know, when you get to Bridge Street, you have to turn right or left, and you end up on 47. And so for me, it was those two reasons. It was the $5,000 and the traffic. Those were my reasons. And I never even got to the point of, well, what about TIF? Now, maybe in my mind, I'm like, well, they got a good deal on the property and they want TIF, you know, and I'll admit I can learn more, but it honestly never even made it to the top of my cons and pros list. It didn't for me. And so you're right. We need to educate people on the entire project, not just on TIF money. And I believe, you know, I don't want to speak for Kevin, but, you know, I think that his answer, he voted no, had more to do with the cost of the road, the little road to get in there. But that's just what I remember, but I'm not sure how much TIF played a part in it for him. But the residents that came and spoke either at the council meeting or at the planning and zoning meeting, which I did go to, I don't recall them ever saying anything about it. We don't want that because of TIF money. You're right, Joe. They came up with all these other reasons that they didn't want it. And I wouldn't want an apartment building in my backyard either. So what I think could have helped in this situation, so they weren't all on emotions and everything is, and I apologize if we did this and I just don't know. I feel like we should have been talking to at least the residents that lived right there before we knocked down the trees. And it seems like they didn't know what was going on until 5 acres of trees were
There's a
knocked
lot
down
of
in their
people that don't get their
backyard.
mail in St. Francis.
I agree, I know,
I'm just
but
saying.
it seemed like we could, did they get notices way well prior to that?
Not
Or
early
would
enough,
it-
I don't
or-
think, but
Well, here's the thing. So Commissioner, so
it gets-
the trees have nothing to do with the project. The road is the road. The trees were connected to the road is the road. The residents aren't part of that at all.
Well,
But so the project itself, once it had its funding, it went through the concept process. So after the concept would have then gone to the site plan process and had a public hearing. So that's when all of the neighbors, once we know what's being built, where it's being built, where the driveway access, all of those pieces, then we go out to the residents and we say, hey, look, it goes in our paper. It goes to 350-degree circle around the property that's being developed. Everybody gets a notice. But it hadn't made it there yet.
well, and I heard you say that in one of our meetings, the planning and zoning meeting, or in the council, I think it was the council meeting. And so from that, and that's what I'm saying, that even though we didn't technically have to tell them that we were gonna knock down all those trees in their backyard, I feel like if we had said, hey, this project is coming up, and I just feel like the emotions wouldn't have been so bad if they didn't open their door and see all this equipment and all the trees gone. I
You haven't been
simplified
here long
that.
enough?
I simplified that, but
Sorry.
that is my view, is that they wouldn't have been as emotional and against everything if we had,
No.
if they knew about it. And it sounds like we didn't notify them,
Well, I mean,
because
Well,
Kate is saying that it would have.
Let me ask you this question. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you call your neighbors up and tell them you're taking a tree down? See, those trees didn't belong to anybody
Right.
but the
No.
city, so they really had no say. We sat here and listened to these people, but yeah, I loved it, I had trees in my backyard.
you're
It wasn't-
trespassing.
It wasn't your backyard to begin with, and that's the part that irked me listening
Yeah.
to these guys. Well, it wasn't yours to begin with. I'm dealing with my neighbor right now. He's got crap piled up against my privacy fence, and I can't get him to move it off so I can replace a couple of boards on it. I'm at my wit's ends, I'm gonna put a ladder over the fence, throw stuff off of it, but I shouldn't have to tell my neighbor that I need my fence cleared to.
I agree that, okay, they didn't own the trees, we didn't have to go to them. But I feel like if we had gone to them 2 months earlier and said, hey, I just think that it would have gone over a lot better. I'm just saying, and I understand we didn't have to. It was our trees, we could do it with them with what we want. I always look at the human side of it, and how would I feel if I was them, lived here for 30 years, and all of a sudden, I know I'm simplifying it, but all of a sudden, 5 acres of trees are cut down in my backyard,
like-
and no one from the city bothered to do anything.
Like-
That's how they
But-
felt.
But you
and-
go back to our concept plan back in the day, that was all in the concept plan that the citizens voted for.
St. Francis Forward Plan.
Yeah,
And then the other
Okay.
thing is too, is the trees are like attached to that road too, right? Because the county won't allow any more accesses. So in order for us as a city to market the corner lot where the church used to be, And anything else over there, you have to do that road in order to have access to it.
See,
Great.
And that's part of what the thing is though, too, is again, with these concept plans that are all public, they're all invited to do it. I don't know, I don't remember how much mailings went out, right, to promote the thing, but I know that we did have a lot of participation, which was actually surprised me how much participation we actually had. But it's again, people that get stuff and throw it away. They get
Mhm.
stuff, but then I was never told.
Mhm.
You were, but you ignored it. I don't know how much came for that wastewater treatment facility. All I know is the last one I seen was that the hikes were coming and as high as the hikes were. And that's what I noticed, right? Otherwise, I look at it, quick brief it. I don't see anything important. I throw it away.
Mhm. People only
Right.
think about what bothers, what
Right.
affects them. I get it.
So I mean, it's one of the, and I get what you're saying as far as notifying. I mean, you can say all that, but at what point too, how is it so me and Mark tend to agree on a lot of things that aren't the government's job. But then we might disagree on other things, right? So it's like, at what point, how much, and even the people that are here against the apartments, to me, my question to them is how much do you want government to be involved to solve your problems? Because most of the time when government gets involved, the problems don't necessarily get better, right? There's a lot of things. I mean, they screwed up the gas can because a politician's son burnt themselves, and now you got to deal with the gas cans that are out there. Is that
Not
unfortunate?
sure
Yeah.
what that means, but I'm gonna.
That's the caps.
Oh, it's kind of like McDonald's.
But it's
with
like
two hot
Yeah.
cups.
yeah. So what do we have to do now to prevent that, from one person got hurt? Now, granted, it's one, you can say one's too many, and I don't disagree with you. However, again, it's up to us as individuals to accept responsibility for our actions. And for me, I mean, nobody said anything about the wastewater facility as far as I'm concerned until I got that last bill. Am I right? I have no idea. I mean, if I'm honest with myself, did I ever look at anything that came in my bill? No. I looked at the bill, it was too high to begin with. I paid it and I moved on with my life, right? So it's those things too that, I mean, it's personal responsibility again, whether it's traffic. If they're looking at building up on 47, there's gonna be a lot more traffic coming through here. There's nothing we can do about that to stop that. People have to adjust to what's going on around them. And if it's townhomes that go in and it has nothing to do with TIF, the council has no say in it. It's unless you have a legal reason to deny it, you can't deny it. I mean, you could deny it and then get sued, but I don't know why you do that. But you have to have a legal standing to deny certain things, right? If it's a permitted use. So there's certain things that you can do and you can't do, and just it's up to the people to know what's going on, not up to the council or staff. I mean, we could hire 10 more people and raise everybody's taxes to go around and hand out stuff. It comes down to people wanting to know and wanting to be involved, and it sucks. Don't get me wrong, but
I
that's
do
kind of
underst-
what it is.
I do understand
My
what you're saying,
opinion,
Joe.
anyway.
I just felt like the conversation tonight started with, we need to educate people about TIF. And I don't
Which we
think,
do.
which we do, but I don't think that was what the community members needed
No.
education on in this
They just didn't
particular
want
case. And that wasn't where I was
Yeah.
in the project. And everybody has to vote with their conscience and what they feel is right.
Real.
And that, and obviously we have to follow laws and all that stuff, but I just think, I just wanted to say it again. I just think that if we had talked to just the, what is it, 8 or 10 houses right along the edge of where the trees were and the businesses in front, of course. I just think if we had, I know we didn't have to, that's been said many, many times, but I just think that that's the human side to a small town.
So
living in the
not to step on your thoughts there, but I will tell you, you have to also say, when does it stop? Because then the person across the street says, why wasn't I informed? And then the
Right.
person three blocks down says, why didn't I know
Mhm.
about it? And that's what happens. Just saying,
You're
it's-
gonna find, as you sit on council and this commission, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't,
Yep.
because look, when we took the church down, the church house. I mean, God, how many people wanted that steeple? It's yours, figure out how to get it down, this is when the place comes down, and it was like, okay. No, not
Didn't they
to,
take it
not to
on the
jump
lunch or
off
something?
subject now, but
That's what I
it's,
thought.
they had some little powwow at the Rum River Inn the other night.
Yeah, I wanted to know how that turned
Did,
out.
did anybody go?
I had another
Yeah,
commitment,
no,
but I
nobody
wanted to
went.
go.
But you know, and nobody posted anything, but if you look to the
Nobody
comments.
notified me.
Yeah. If you
Just
look through the
kidding.
comments of that, there was 190 comments on what everybody wanted.
And it was all different.
And it was all different. You're right.
Mhm.
We're never gonna please everybody. I mean, but if you look at that, oh, I want a coffee shop, I want a family restaurant, I want a rec center, I want this. We're not gonna get any of that without development. None, absolutely none. Because these companies come in here and they do market studies. Must have been a great market study to put two Dollar Generals in, but I really think the one.
And an AutoZone next to O'Reilly's, yeah.
Yeah, but that's,
That's how it works,
that's
competition.
Yeah, I
competition there.
know.
But.
It's a depressed
I
area,
really
Mike.
truly believe that this.
It's a very depressed area.
Yeah,
I don't know if you heard.
but you understand what I'm saying? So when I first started working for Ryan Companies, one of the first jobs I was on was the Sears building off of Lake Street, and that was all TIF money also. And when they get a depleted area like that, they come in there and they rebuild that whole area and new businesses come in there and now it thrives. To a certain point, I mean, but without having development in here. And I think Steve was the one that told me that we really ain't gonna get a lot until we get to that 10,000 mark. As far as citizens in this town, and you're gonna find as time goes by and you sit in that chair. That you could send out 1,000 flyers. And this was conversation at a council meeting about discontinuing these flyers, these newsletters that they send out. I read mine, I'm one of the few. And everyone keeps saying, well, I wasn't notified, I mean, certain things gotta be put in the newspaper. Well, I didn't see it, well,
Yeah.
do you read? I mean, that's the problem. And that was some of the discussion I had with this gentleman that was out here after last council meeting. And one of the things I'd love the city to do is put in a sign out there that says there's a council meeting, says EDA meeting, says there's recycle day this day instead of these little signs that they stick in the neighborhood. So anybody that drives by these things, they see that sign. There's a billboard out there which says what we have going on.
Well, we have our billboard over by the community park,
City.
right? That we sometimes, we put
Right.
those things on, but I mean, your point is that, we had it over there because, that is,
High traffic.
yeah, high traffic, but. Okay, this sounds really expensive, but maybe we need one here too. I like your idea too, but
$100,000.
that sounds really expensive, but, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, that,
That we didn't do, but
yeah, and maybe you don't drive by the other
they're not
sign
cheap.
much, but it is only getting one sector of our city.
I just want to piggyback on what all of you have said. Thinking about it, no, we can't please everyone, but in hindsight, have we learned anything as a government entity, which we're probably viewed as, right? Everybody loves the government right now. Being transparent, being forward thinking creates trust. And I think that's a lot of it, especially at that whole water treatment facility snafu. I think that the citizens don't trust any of our agencies.
I don't know if it was that anyway. I never trusted the government to begin with, which is why I got
But
involved.
that's what that's what
Just
I mean,
saying.
but still, for those that did,
Didn't
right,
help.
that was a huge tipping point. I mean, just the people in my own neighborhood, we talk about it almost every time we get together, like, how did this happen? What happened? Because I'm not educated about it. It wasn't all in place before I got here. But I think that in hindsight, for future reference, we should have learned something from that. I live on a dead end and there's a dead end next to me and there's a big field behind me, which eventually will have 3 streets. If I walked out of my patio door and saw bulldozers back there, I would probably hit the fan. You sent me a notice? You did? Because I probably didn't read it.
Right.
But when I hear the noise and I see it, or maybe you didn't send me a notice, maybe you're gonna do that, and then I get the notices, oh, and by the way, this is potentially what's gonna happen. Now, you're saying those trees were all taken down, but we're not doing anything that we planned for it, so is that what I'm hearing?
No,
So the trees
well,
No.
no, so, hold on, so, Um,
this is-
Commission-
things happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying-
It was such a visual thing.
Stay off
that-
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, in order to sell the lots, we have to put in at least an L.
Okay.
So that is going to be bid out in this winter's road projects, so we can mobilize with more efficient costs. But as of right now, until we at least get that L in, I can't sell anything. It really straps the EDA from moving on any of the parcels.
I just think we need to be learning, and I'm open-minded, and a lot of people are not, I get that, but if we're even gonna, we talk about education, social media, our newsletter, if we have our digital board out there, but building trust and being as transparent as we can, as soon as we can, I think is gonna be helpful, and then you're gonna get more people to buy into some of those things that we're talking about. They don't see the value, because how does an apartment building help me? Because people really are,
Right.
what is it in it for me?
So, to answer some of that too, and as frustrating as it is, I mean, when me and Steve started here, we've been begging for people to be involved. We've been doing everything we can do to try to get more input. And again, the St. Francis Ford project was probably our most successful, most participation we've ever had that I've ever seen. And I haven't seen as much since. And the super frustrating part, like I say, is we're like, we need to be transparent. We need to let it, because we were so pissed off with the water treatment facility, and we did it. And we're still, I mean, I still think we're trying to do everything. I think Mark feels the same way, where he wants to be transparent as well. It's not, the thing is if people don't see it, or they throw it away, or whatever the case may be, it's the city trying to do something behind your back, and it's the mentality of that. And the thing I struggle with is I mean, you can spoon feed people and they still don't want to hear it. They still don't care. And that's the hardest part, is it's like, no, honestly, I am not a fan of government at all. Like, I want as much less government as possible at all levels, right? For the most part, freedom sounds great. Granted, there's pluses and minuses to all that, right? Free speech is a great thing. However, when you have hate speech, you have to accept, if you want to have free speech, you have to accept that somebody's going to be hateful, and you don't have to like what they say, but they have every right to say it, right? So there's good and bad things with everything. And I think I look at the positive side of things, and I try to focus on those things, but at the same time, you do everything you can for people, and there's only so much you can do, to where they have to take some responsibility for themselves to take a drink. You can bring them there, but they just walk away and say they're thirsty. And it's like, well, what the hell do you want me to do? And it's hard and it's frustrating, but I don't think, like, I haven't lost faith necessarily in trying to do more, but sometimes, I mean, I may make comments that sound like that too, because I'm frustrated, which isn't the right thing to do, but I'm definitely guilty of that from time to time too, 'cause it's so frustrating. But it's like, with the people we get with the apartment, that apartment would have helped pay for that road. So Kevin being upset about that road and the cost, that apartment the fees and everything associated with that would have helped pay for that road, which would have allowed us to sell those lots. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody cares about that. Nobody asks those questions, because they don't want an apartment. Because of the fears they have of what's going to happen if that comes. We're going to turn into Minneapolis. I mean, you've heard the craziest things. And again, even with rural people, I understand that people bought land to buy land. And a friend of mine too that lives off of Yukon up there in 241st or whatever, he owns 3 acres. That's a nice lot. I've never had 3 acres. I'll probably never will, and that's okay with me, right? But it is what it is. But then he'll complain about the plows not being there soon enough. Well, you
either
can't
are
have
rural
both.
or you're not.
So they're gonna do the dense area first, because it affects more people, and then they're gonna work their way out. That's how it works. And he supposedly understands these things. He wants all his rights, but then when he feels like he doesn't like something, he's not worried about the other person's rights. And that happens frequently, unfortunately, with conversation I have. And I point those things out, and sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't, right? But it depends on how that person feels at that moment in time. So it's trying to get through to people and trying to understand, like, we're trying to be transparent, I think, as we can. There's newsletters that are sent out that talk about things that, again, nobody ever gets, nobody ever reads. Even Mark, the mayor, now, I still give him shit, because there's a lot of mail that he didn't get in the past. And so I tease him now that he's sitting in that chair,
Yeah.
So it's up to people and it's again, we're gonna do everything we can, I think, to educate people, but at the same time, it's. With the trees and that argument, to me, it's like, can I tell Amy, I'm Amy's neighbor, can I say you can't have a pool in your backyard? I don't own her yard, she owns her yard. And she has every right to put a pool there. Now, you can argue, the only argument I can see with that, the trees is that it's city owned, therefore it's public, right? To where they should have something to say about it, but again, if I have one person show up, well, at the council, we're talking about the charter and whatnot, and whether or not to keep it. If I go by the same logic of these people surrounding it don't want it, what about everybody else that wants the benefits from that apartment building coming in? Now, most of the time, you're not gonna hear those things. But, you know, young gentleman named Hunter, you know, your future mayor, I think one day, well, if he lives here.
I hope
But-
so.
He, you know, he says, he wants to keep the charter. That's the only person that I've heard. So that's one person that said keep the charter. Should I vote to keep the charter because he said so? Or, I mean, I don't know how many people really care, honestly, whether or not you have it or not. They feel like whatever laws are passed, probably they're gonna have to do it, but I don't know, but if I go by that logic, I heard one voice, that voice said to do this, I'm gonna do that because that's what the people said. Right? And so you have to try to balance those things. You have to understand that when there's 30 people that are emotional about it. You know, I rallied up like 150 people about the water bill. We marched in the place, we were angry. Next meeting you had less, next meeting you had less, and the next meeting you had 10 people. And then it was down to 2. So it's like. It's,
I think I went to one of those meetings where there's so many.
You know,
I'll be honest, I thought, I have my own water and I left. I was like, this is years ago, obviously,
Yeah.
and so it does keep, it's human nature.
I just saw the kid over there.
You
I forgot
work
it was-
on what affects you. I'm just saying that the emotions would have been less
Yeah.
if we had just went, ooh, let's just talk to these people. And yeah, that's all I'm saying. I just think the emotions would have been less and we would have had a better, shot at.
So how do we notify those people? They don't read their mail. I mean, do you
know.
go door to door and knock on it? I mean,
Yes, I was just
so.
saying, the only reason I'm even here is because Steve came to my house.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, oh, I need to get involved, I need to go to city council. 5 years, I never moved in any direction. Steve's knocking on my door. The second year he came, I'm only gonna stay for half an hour. I'm like, right, come on in. You're
6
coffee,
hours
'cause it's gonna
later.
be 2 hours for sure. And it was, but it was fascinating to me. All of it is fascinating to me. Granted, not everybody wants to hear from their mayor for that long or whatever, but. And I wasn't saying we weren't transparent. I just think it's a very slow process. And if we can be forward thinking, mindful of our residents, transparent and start building trust, we're winning some of those people over.
I agree with you.
I agree.
Do you know,
I just wonder what more can we do to try to earn that trust, because I think we've tried with a lot of stuff.
do you realize, since I've sat on this commission, that I've seen maybe one council member at one meeting we've had? I mean, they
You mean,
could,
you mean
Oh,
on
with
the
the EDA?
audience?
yeah, I mean.
Kevin showed up
We
once.
could, yeah, and that was once. I absolutely value their opinion, I mean,
You can't really do that though, because there's already 2 here, so then you get a
but
quorum.
right, but so what about the rest? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
No.
At least make that, Steve used to show up every now and then,
Yeah, he'll give
But-
notice, I suppose.
but yeah, he probably read his notice, so.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, I agree with what you're saying about the transparency. I don't know how we get a hold of everybody. I understand that. But I do agree that the council and the commissions in the city have got to be on the same page, or we're not going to get anything done.
Yeah.
And there has to be more discussions between those bodies. And I know you run into open meeting law problems and that, but we've got to find a way. So what is that? And I think that should have some tiebacks to that plan, that comp plan that we have, the Safe Francis Forward. We went through all of this. You've commented about how excited people were. They had opinions. Let's use that. That's helping to direct us in what people were looking for. This is our long range plans. And that, in my opinion, is what the governing body should be doing, is the long range planning.
So I have a
And
suggestion.
that was never even brought up in the council meeting. Nobody brought that up, and it's like, wait a minute, this is what you guys asked for and now you're shooting it down.
I think it has to be reminded for sure.
I think a step in that direction would be, and I hate to do this because I don't see it working the other way where council's showing up here. If you show up to council meetings and
True.
say, hey, I'm a member of the EDA, blah, blah, blah. Then the rest of us are forced to hear that again too. And well, obviously only two of us here now that are hearing it, but that's how you get it. I think Mark's pretty receptive with a lot of things. And if he hears something that he's like, hey, maybe that is, I think if he hears something he thinks is a good idea, he'd definitely jump all over that or any way to improve the city. I do think he cares about that.
And the minutes from all the commission groups are put in our packets. So I know I read them. I can't speak for the other council members.
But is there an agreement about what the council is looking for and what direction these commissions are taking? That, we've got to have that understanding earlier on before everybody's
Yeah,
going in every
because
direction.
you're right, we invested a lot of time into this and then to have it, I mean,
On a
not
work
just
session,
us,
it's a
but
forward plan
city
again.
staff, I mean, how many hours do you think you had involved in this?
So,
Right?
More than you wanna
You
know.
and Amy, and not to, that lot was listed for $1 for how many years, Kate?
For sure, so that was another one that had been put on the market, at market price. And had not had any hits on, we kind of sent out like an RFP trying to encourage, and we did get one other townhouse, but they came in with such a small development. It wasn't cost effective and it wasn't a good use of the property.
And it's a good
So it
thing,
was
because they
turned
went
down.
bankrupt.
Yeah, they're building in cities south of here in greater quantities, so it has to make sense for both of us.
Right.
But yeah,
We need to get with a commercial developer in this town. We got some lots sitting here that, I mean, I've actually heard people talk about having an industrial park. Well, we can't have an industrial park if we don't have a developer. All that goes hand in hand. And if we did put an industrial park in this town, guess what follows that industrial park? Family restaurants. All those things that take away that burden from everybody in town.
Isn't the zone over here, the upbuilding is part of it, and that's why we're talking about, isn't that industrial?
That's industrial, but the industrial park's down the road.
right, we've got a business park just north of 47 and Ambassador, but south of 241st. However, it doesn't have any infrastructure, water and sewer to it. So it's another parcel that's waiting for infrastructure before it can be sold.
Which is very costly to run that pipe.
And that's part of the money we're asking for.
Well,
from
and
the
the
state.
same is true, Mike, is, you're saying the council should come here to the meeting, and you said, the other way around. The planning and zoning meetings, you suggested a few things. I've learned a lot from the planning and zoning meetings, and it's an extra night to go to those meetings, but those meetings they happen once a month, but often they get canceled if there's no applications. So they really are only every 2 to 3 months on average, I guess. So they're usually on Wednesdays. I learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the planning and zoning, not that I know everything, but that would be good for you all to go to the meeting or read about, or so we are looking at the same, everybody's working together.
So let me ask you a question about planning and zoning. Aren't they somewhat dictated by the ordinances and the requirements of the city?
Correct. So planning and zoning and
Requested.
as well as council. So there is a great map of discretion. So where your discretion with planning and zoning and the council is when you set the comp plan and you write the ordinances. For example, this townhouse development that's looking at coming in across the street, they build to code, there is nothing more to say. It's building to right. If they're following the comp plan, they're following the code or the codes, it is what it is. And that goes true from every one of you. If you want to build a shed and the code says you can build this shed, you can build it. You don't, right? You have to get approval per se. So, that's the greatest discretion. So anybody can build to right on on a property. If that house or a property out in the rural area is allowed to have 4 houses, it could build 4 houses. And there's nothing we can say as a local government. So planning commission is supposed to look at things as, does it meet the comp plan? Does it meet code? And if it doesn't meet those things, are we okay with those variables? So we're learning the city is probably too high in parking requirements. I mean, that's kind of a statewide thing, but definitely a metro thing where we're building for, a great way to put it is we're building for Black Friday every day, but we don't need that many parking spaces, right? So when planning commission gets to something and they're going, okay, Quick Trip was a great example. Here's Quick Trip. They know from all of their experience, they don't need the parking we're requiring. Is our planning commission willing to accept less? And then it goes to council. Are you willing to accept less? So there's some discretion, and that's where we use the tools like the planned unit development. If they build to code, no, they cannot change that parking. But if we do the PUD and make some of those discretions, yeah, we're gonna put in 10 more trees if you don't make us put in 6 more parking spaces, or we can kind of negotiate. When it's built to right, they build it to code and there's no conversation. When it's built to a PUD or some type of a concept,
Have some say to beautify.
we have some negotiations to, you know, yeah, we don't care if you reduce parking, but can you put in a trail extension that goes another 10 feet or, so the planning commission has to really stick to the code. And then when it gets to council, if you don't have the discretion of a PUD or some type of like they're not asking to do anything different. Then it also has to follow code, but it's when they're asking to do something different, we want, you know, we want less parking or we want less trees or we want shorter setbacks, all of those kind of quirky things. The new development that's looking at going up on off of Ambassador, right? You basically approved the concept the other night saying we are okay with all of these asks. They're going to go back and draw that and then come back to council and through planning saying, here's what you approved in concept. Here's how it draws out. These are our asks. So there's a little discretion in there with those asks, but if they just go to code, code is code, and your discretion is when you write and approve that code.
You have to have a finding of fact to deny it.
Correct, based on comp plan or code. Yep. Yeah, a lot of moving pieces with where that discretion falls based on what they're asking.
Anything else? How about any movement on 47 before somebody asks me again?
So 47, it continues to move. We are working with both the state and county on some intersection. We're not sure if it's permanent or temporary up off Ambassador. So if it's temporary, it could be still this year. If it's permanent, it wouldn't be built until next year. And then we have heard from Klobuchar's office on asking for funds underneath. So we've got 2 projects on the highway. One is, you can think of it as one is dirt up and one is dirt down. We've asked the state and feds for money for the dirt down because otherwise we have to bond 100% of that. And we are making it slowly through the federal process, but as of right now, there's still no guarantees.
And
Hopefully we'll get
wheels
one of the
move slow.
2. Yeah, otherwise it's gonna be a very costly bond and all of those bond prices will go on the water and sewer rates. So we're trying our hardest to get some funds to help offset that. So,
Yeah, if it all goes on the water and sewer rates, then how does well and septic work? So you're just asking one group of the citizens to cover that.
It's those pipes that you have to pay for those. The
Yeah.
wells, some people don't use
But
those
they
pipes.
come here and they're using these pipes.
No,
They go to the library, they're using those pipes, the school district, you know, I mean. It's just not, you can't draw that line. I understand what you're
yeah,
saying.
but they pay
I totally
sack and
get
whack
it.
and then they raise the price and then they they pay for it indirectly through property taxes through the school too, you could argue, or they pay through their grocery prices too. That's the argument in favor of that or whatever. It's a lot different than what happened in East Bethel, cause that was a whole big shit show, but that's, so that's, they're gonna be hit, but they're gonna be hit indirectly.
So that's interesting, you brought up East Bethel.
Uh-oh.
So I kind of looked into that. I talked to Mark a little bit about that.
That's Bolton, Mick.
So, no, it wasn't so much that, but how the Met Council came in there and they took that project and what was the wording they used in it? They basically paid off that treatment plan and called it a sample or something like that. So
It's a
East-
subsidiary.
So they,
type
you gotta
of-
read the article. I should have I tried.
Steve used to
printing
always talk about it.
it.
turning
I
ours
tried
into that.
printing it off, but it wouldn't let me do it because I wanted to bring it. But it was really interesting what it said, how the Met Council kind of just went in there and paid it and let them off the hook.
That's because they had no means to do anything with it.
No, because the means is what, the Met Council?
No,
The Met Council knew that they were to get more development through that.
right,
You know.
but they were doomed the minute they built it because everything was supposed to go to 65 and nothing came. So then they started hitting the residents with well and septic, people that weren't even using the facility to have to pay for it. And I think they said this is unfair, or whatever, somehow. And then they seen it as an opportunity to expand their, the Met Council is going to do what makes sense for them too financially. So that's why they do that. And it's like a subsidiary plan. I don't know what the word is, but I know what you're talking about because Steve used to always talk about it.
So one last thing, the Rum River Inn. I know that there was the powwow there and nobody knows what it was, but have you heard anything more on the Rum River?
Commissioners, I have, but not anything that's public. So there are a lot of conversations. There are some great challenges. The price, the property, the river, the setbacks.
Hmm.
There's a lot of moving pieces on that one. They're working as hard as they can to get all of those things connected, and we are here waiting to help wherever we can. But it's having problems getting over some of its own hurdles. But there's a lot of people looking at it. It's just getting that next step.
Yeah. All right, anything else, guys?
Maybe we should put an apartment there.
I think we
It's a
covered,
storm site.
Yeah. well, they tried to get it taken off and that got denied.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Did it? I was wondering
Yeah.
about that. So then what are the options for someone to purchase it and do anything
You
if
go to
it's?
the Historical Society and ask for a grant.
You got to do a bunch of stuff to environmental studies and whatnot. What are you gonna put there? What's your idea? What's going there? Type of.
Basically you have to
It's
get
like
it
50
approved.
grand, I think, for that.
So we requested that it come off the Historical Society because of the damage they've done on the interior. They gutted it. They took any significance out of it. What we learned was it wasn't put on the register due to anything on the interior. It had already been altered when it was put on there.
Oh, no.
So it didn't matter. The exterior holds either 1 or 2 historic windows and some white historic siding. Therefore, we got denied for removing it from the list. So one of the questions that I continue to have is if we go through the process to look at having it removed, it's $35,000 to $50,000 process. They can still say no. But that would be the next step, but it's such a huge gamble for somebody to take that step. I understand why they're not. Otherwise, to remodel it, I easily could see $500,000 to $750,000 to put it back together. So construction costs right now are about $350 a square foot, and they took out everything, and which then requires the entire place to be brought to current city code. So the fact that it's missing footings, electrical, HVAC, it has a dirt floor in part of it. It's such an extensive rebuild. It really is stuck in this weird kind of limbo. So
And it's clearly unsafe to be in there, so.
Can't use a
Can,
nuisance
can't
against
we,
that?
can it be condemned? I mean, I don't know anything about that process.
Yep, so,
Nuisance ordinance.
yeah, we could go through the process to condemn it, but being that it can't be taken down, we're then forcing the current owner's hand to either start the remodel or to start the $50,000 process to ask the state if they'd be willing to let us take it down.
It's the
So
state, not even the county.
it's the state.
Oh, that's worse.
So it has, yeah, that building has a huge challenge. That I just, and again, you know, it would qualify for redevelopment TIF, but if that's not in council's favor, that's not a tool that's even being discussed.
TIF money as far as rebuilding it? Is that what you're saying?
They could get some, yeah, some redevelopment money, but it, they haven't asked either, right? That we've given them some different options. They could have some historic tax credits, which is through the state. But there is some other significant gaps that aren't even allowing people to get that far in the conversation.
And you can't just take the windows out and promise to put them back in your new building. Oh, is that allowed?
Well, but that may not be the only part of that.
I'm sure it
There
isn't,
could
but
be setbacks from the DNR from the river that may fall into that once you take that building down.
Extensive. So we went through a study with HKGI. If we were to remove the pole barn and the building, it has to be pushed back from the county road. It has to be pushed back from the highway. And there's about 3,500 feet of building space that would be left between stormwater, impervious because of the river rules, setbacks. It would be a building smaller than the old city hall is what's allowed. So,
what's the point?
Do you wanna find somebody to redevelop what's there?
either rebuild what's there or redevelop the entire site, including the hardware store. If
Did
they went
Tim join
together,
those now?
pardon me?
Did Tim join those lots at all? Because his lot was already encroaching on the other lot, and I'm just kinda curious if that ever got
As of right now, they haven't pulled together any of the lots that I'm aware of.
in behind
They've
it.
had surveys where they're working on surveys, so.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a real mess. I mean, there's so many obstacles in there.
Yeah.
And then again, the general public don't know that. They don't know there's, you know, these people that buy these houses on Minnetonka, they knock down the house and leave one wall
Yeah.
to get away from that DNR
Mhm.
setback stuff like that, you know?
I drove through there today. Yeah, you could tell all the knockdown houses and,
It's,
yeah, it's amazing down there.
Really? I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah,
You keep a wall, huh?
you keep a wall,
Sometimes,
build
yeah.
around it. Take a wall.
That's
what I heard anyway.
That wall is
Yeah.
usually exterior and it's closest to the lake. Somehow they
Ah.
incorporate it in. You got great architects that draw
Yeah.
great
Turn
plans.
in the art.
Great plans for that.
And we have another layer with the wild and scenic river rules where, so you've got the shoreline rules. And then we've got wild and scenic on top of that. So what is restrictive for a lot of like Lake Minnetonka, we have another layer with the wild and scenic. So that poor property, our property we talked about tonight. I mean, these challenges with the county road, sorry, I keep picking on the county, Brenda, the county and the DNR, I mean, it really.
Have they infiltrated us?
Yes, and you can just bet I run back. No, I don't. But I do want you to know with the 47 project, they came to a commissioners board meeting and the highway department said, St. Francis has been working on this so hard and they've been doing all the right things. So they gave you guys a lot of praise. So I thought that was really good.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, working with, they've been a great partner to help walk through this.
I got nothing but praise for the staff here. I mean, you guys knock it out of the park, completely, and I hope it stays that way, you know. I've seen past administrations where they were pretty bad. We keep making good decisions, we'll have a great neighborhood, great community. Anything else? I'm sorry to take up your time, so much time, but I love the discussion we had tonight. Hopefully we can come up some way somehow to figure out how we can incorporate our citizens in this town, but I think as you learn, Amy, it falls on deaf ears.
We'll fault you for trying though.
Yeah, you're gonna get blamed for everything, no matter what. You got blamed for the trees.
Yeah.
Whether you realize it or not.
I had nothing to do with the trees.
Yeah, you did, you're on council.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're here or not. It's still here.
Adjourn?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn,
I so moved.
Second.
motion carries, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Off.
Hey, you guys read this,
7:15.
please.
I will. I
Please
already.
read this.
I will.
Off, right? My mic.